let's look at this cast. Ed O'Neill as Al Bundy. I think it's wild that the network almost didn't cast him at all. According to co star David Faustino, Fox executive Barry Diller pushed back hard on O'Neill, wanting a bigger name for the lead, and honestly, when I try to picture anyone else as Al Bundy, I just can't. O'Neill was only 41 when he took the role, but in my opinion, what made him so convincing was that Al's constant bragging about his high school football glory days wasn't just writing. O'Neill himself had actually been signed by the Pittsburgh Steelers as an undrafted free agent before getting cut in training camp. That's the kind of detail that makes a performance feel lived in rather than acted. He's currently 80 years old, and I find his career longevity genuinely rare. He went on to headline Modern Family for 11 more seasons, essentially playing a happier version of the same fatherly archetype, and even took on a dramatic turn in 2024 playing Donald Sterling in Clipped. Katey Sagal as Peggy Bundy. She was 33 when she stepped into the giant bouffant and stilettos as Peg Bundy, and I think what's easy to forget is that this wasn't her first shot at fame. She'd already been working steadily since the early 70s. What I find most admirable about her story is what came after Married, with children. Futurama, Sons of Anarchy, a Golden Globe win. In my opinion, very few sitcom actors manage to build an entirely separate, critically respected career the way she did. She's currently 72 years old, and something I genuinely appreciate is how openly she and her son Jackson White have spoken about sobriety together. It's not the kind of thing most former sitcom stars choose to make public.
Amanda Bearse as Marcy Darcy. Here's something I think deserves more recognition than it usually gets. In 1993, while still playing Marcy on the show, Bearse publicly came out as a lesbian, making her the first primetime television actress to do so. I think that took real courage, especially in that era and especially while still appearing weekly on national television. She was 29 when the show began. What I also find interesting is that she quietly built a second career behind the camera, directing over 30 episodes of the show itself between 1991 and 1997, plus later work on Reba and Sabrina the Teenage Witch. She's currently 67 years old, and by all accounts, she's stayed close with several former castmates, including Applegate and Garrison. Christina Applegate as Kelly Bundy. I think Applegate's story is probably the most emotionally heavy one on this list. She was just 15 when she landed the role of Kelly Bundy, and in her own memoir, she's revealed that she was starving herself during filming to maintain the character's look, something that, in my opinion, says a lot about what was expected of young actresses at that time. In 2008, she survived breast cancer with a double mastectomy, and in 2021, she announced she'd been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. What I find genuinely moving is that instead of retreating from public life, she's leaned into total honesty about it. Her 2026 memoir, You with the Sad Eyes, and her podcast, Missy, both dig directly into it. She's currently 54 years old, and I think turning that kind of pain into something other people going through MS can actually use is one of the more meaningful second acts on this entire list. David Faustino as Bud Bundy. He was only 13 when the show started, and I think that's easy to forget when you watch old episodes. He basically grew up entirely on that set. What I find funny is that he and Applegate weren't even the original choices for Bud and Kelly. Producers reshot the pilot with different actors before recasting them, which in hindsight feels like one of those lucky accidents that shaped an entire era of television. After the show, he leaned heavily into voice work, Legend of Korra, Dragons, Race to the Edge, which I think is a smart, low drama way for a former child star to stay working without fighting typecasting. He's currently 52 years old, and he's also become something of the show's unofficial historian, running the Bundy Club and organizing a 2026 cast reunion to support Applegate's MS Foundation. Ted McGinley as Jefferson Darcy. He joined in season 5 as Marcy's second husband, and I think what's interesting about McGinley's career is the reputation that followed him into the role. He'd already appeared on Happy Days and Love Boat during their later seasons, which had earned him a half-joking show killer label among fans, since he tended to join series as they were winding down. I find it kind of funny that Married with Children actually broke that pattern and ran for years after he joined. He's currently 68 years old, and he's stayed busy well beyond acting, doing voice work as Aquaman in Batman the Brave and the Bold, and more recently appearing in Apple TV's Shrinking. David Garrison as Steve Rhodes. He only stayed for the first 4 seasons before choosing to leave, and I think that decision alone says a lot about him, since walking away from a hit show to go back to live theater isn't the choice most actors make. He was 34 when the show began. What I find most impressive about his career afterward is that he went on to play the wizard in the original touring production of Wicked, which to me suggests his real passion was always the stage rather than sitcom television. He's currently 74 years old, and interestingly, he's the cast member most people say looks the most different today, mostly thanks to his glasses and white hair, though by all accounts he's remained on good terms with several of his former co stars.